Hi everyone, welcome back to another candle review and testing of a subscriber's candles from here on the channel. These ones are coming from a company called Velad Moss Candles. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's V-E-L-A-D space M-A-S. But I'm super excited to get into this one. This is a giant box, so we've either got giant candles or a lot of products. Depending on what we have in here, I'll do my best to get through them all. I typically try to focus on a couple of the main products, but we'll see what we have once we get in the box. Thank you all for being here as usual. If you're new to this channel, my name is Wade. I'm the owner of Black Tie Barn Candle Company, and of course this YouTube channel to help other aspiring or current candle makers and candle businesses. If you've never seen one of these reviews, these are sent in voluntarily. We take a look at the packaging, the presentation, the label, anything we can see visually, and then I will also test them to provide additional feedback as well. If you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing below. Hit the like button and let's dive in. I'm gonna go ahead and get everything out. All right, I'm not sure if you can see this all, but yeah, we got a lot. Let's try to identify quickly what we got. I'm gonna say we've got 3 candles. We've got some kind of little lotion, a wax melt sample pack. We've got a room spray sample. Some other box with a couple other items in it that I'm not sure till we open it. We have a candle care card. And we've got a before and after letter. So once again, if you're brand new to these, the before after is what we're going to read before we open these. Tells us a little bit about whatever the maker wants to share. And then the after is, as they've labeled it correctly, fact checking. So I'll be making some guesses on what we're using here as we go along. At the very, very end, we'll open this up and see how close I was. Sometimes I'm right on, sometimes I'm not close, but it's a lot of fun either way. So let's go ahead and open the before letter. All right, so I'm going to summarize this for you, but the maker's name is Ruben Ortega, and he is the owner of Velad Moss Candles, which again, I'm hoping I'm saying correctly. He is actually in the military. He's also a licensed barber in Kansas, which is nearby. It's a neighbor of mine. And he got into candle making because of his son, who also wanted to join the craft as well. The one thing that Ruben said he wants me to focus on as far as feedback goes is wicking and overall performance. He has settled on these jars and doesn't plan on changing anything for the near future. So he really wants to keep using these jars and just looking for ways to improve the performance and overall burn. Let's take a look at the wax melt sample pack. And this is a great way for your customers to get an idea of what other fragrances you have to offer without having to be full candle purchases. So this is called Ponte Vapor Rub, which means put on some vapor rub. And yeah, it has that kind of menthol smell, but not overly menthol. It's light. It's pleasant. It's not like gonna punch you in the face type of fragrance. It's really subtle, really nice. This other sample is Cubo de Bayas, which means bucket of berries. And I don't speak Spanish, so I'm probably botching all these names. I apologize. Again, a really nice fragrance. Again, very soft, but very, very nice. I love pretty much every outdoor fragrance you can get, and that includes fruit and citrus and berries as well. So definitely up my alley with that one. And then last, before we get to these other boxes, is a Lush Linen Room Spray. Again, just a sample. Most of these are kind of just your standard kind of clean or floral. This one's a little different. I like this. This reminds me of something in my childhood as well, and I don't know what it is. Go ahead and just fill the air with another fragrance, and I'll be able to evaluate these candles still. All right, we're gonna start with this box before we get to those other 3. Man, there's so many great products in here. So he's done a lot already with products. So I can't tell if this is a bath or body product like a sugar scrub or salt scrub, or if this is more like aroma beads. I'll have to look a little bit more at the letters or the final letter after we get to it. But either way, this is smells great. It's really cool. Set that aside. All right, we're gonna start these 2 smaller, almost jelly jar candles. And I'm gonna assume that most of these are gonna be made with the same products. And so if I think they're different, I will say that. But otherwise, I'm going to spend most of the time evaluating things like the wax and wick on one of them. And then as we get through each one, I'll focus on what might be different between them. First one here is called Calmate. Calm Yourself. Yeah, it's a very aromatic, relaxing, calm fragrance. To me, it smells a little bit similar to what we just smelled with those little salt scrubs or the aroma beads or whatever those were. It's got a little bit of lemon, little bit of lavender. Let's talk about the wax on this one. Again, we'll address this on each of them. Noticing kind of the inconsistent jar adhesion on this one. It's got a kind of a silky, smooth, almost buttery texture. Not greasy, just kind of smooth and a little bit of a shine. I mean, that doesn't narrow it down a lot. That could be a lot of different waxes. A lot of different parasols are like that. There's some coconut paraffins that are like that. You know, I could take a stab at it and say this could even be, I was gonna say this could be a really soft paraffin wax, like a 4630 or 4627, but it's just not soft enough. It's not greasy enough for that. It's got a little bit of a different feeling and texture to it. This one has a little bit of a sheen and a slight off-white color. If I had to guess, I would say IGI 6006, which is a pretty safe answer, but a lot of people do start with that, and a lot of people use that in general, even after they've been making candles for a while. And just my familiarity with that wax, I know that wax pretty well. I used it for a number of years, a lot. And so, yeah, if I had to place a bet on the wax, I would say this one at least is IGI 6006. As far as the wick, it's one of 3 wicks: CD, HTP, or CD. And the way you know that is it's got these, it's a cotton wick, and it's got these really defined V-shaped paper threads running through it. And the difference between those 3 wicks, it can be hard sometimes. Although Eco have the lighter threads, they're usually further apart. So I don't think this one is Eco. I think this is going to be an HTP or CD. I'm going to go with HTP only because I don't like CD wicks in 6006. So if they've watched my videos before, then maybe they're not going that route either. So I'm going to go with an HTP. And this could be anywhere from a 73, 83, or 93 would be where I would start. Next up, again, very nicely wrapped with a little thank you sticker on top. This is a winter sleigh ride, part of his winter collection. I think he mentioned that in the first letter that he was working on a new winter collection. This one definitely smells like winter, like Christmas time. I'm picking up like mistletoe or pine or fir type fragrances. There's some really popular birches as well, and but I don't know which one it would be. There's just too many options. Smells very good, smells right on the money when it comes to Christmas. It looks like we're dealing with the same kind of wax on this one. Very nice, smooth, kind of semi-matte texture with a little bit of a sheen. The wick looks the same too. So I'm going to go again with an HTP 73, 83, or 93. Again, I could be wrong. This could be, I don't think it's an Eco wick. It could be a CD though. But I'm going to stick with my guess on that and go with HTP. I prefer this one a little bit more as far as fragrance goes, only because this one seemed a little stronger to me. Let's go ahead and pick this one out. Very nice, heavy kind of ceramic jar, and it has a candle insert for the top rather than a lid. This is called 3 Wise Men. So I have a 3 Wise Men type of candle, and it's a frankincense fragrance. So I don't know if his is. There could be a little frankincense and myrrh in there, and it could also just be my mind playing tricks on me because that's what I was expecting. But there's definitely something else besides that. I don't know what it is, but it's refreshing. I really like that. And look at the cool little gold like flakes on top. This really does scream the name. Like the color of this vessel and those little gold flakes on top. Really, really nice touch. You've done a great job with the theme on this candle. Now, I think we're dealing with the same wax here. I think so. It feels the same. It looks the same. It's separated from the jar a little bit, which is really common with concrete and ceramic and porcelain jars. You know, 6006 will do that too. Most waxes will. If I had to guess, I'd stick with that wax. But here's where the curveball comes in. The other 2 ones that I thought were 6006 were using HTP wicks. At least that was my best bet. On this one, this doesn't look like an HTP wick. Remember how at the beginning I said that the difference between Eco and HTP is Eco have the V's, the little paper threads of the V's further apart. The camera will show it or not. This one definitely have wider V's. Like this one feels more like an Eco wick than it does an HTP to me. I have no idea what size though. This size of vessel, 6006, I would say it's gotta be an Eco probably 10 or higher, 10, 12, 14. I'm just guessing though, and I could be completely wrong. This could also be an HTP wick that's just larger and it's throwing me off, throwing me a curveball. But really nice fragrance. This is the best looking candle by far. Last but not least, ooh, I love this blue. Love the blue crinkle cut. This vessel is also a little bit different. This is a standard kind of tumbler that is white painted, with the exception of the bottom. And this one's Pennies from Heaven. And I believe this was, in the first letter that I read, a mother or grandmother, someone in the family that this one is made after. So that's why this one is a little bit different than the others. Oh, excellent fragrance. I don't know what it is though. It's kind of floral, a little bit of perfume. I can't put my finger on it though. Sometimes I just have a hard time describing the fragrances that come to me, or at least choosing what I think it might be, but that's almost impossible. There's just like hundreds of thousands of fragrances. Again, another dust cover on this one. Very nice job. If you haven't seen the label yet, I really like all the white aesthetic on this one. White jar, white label, white dust cover. That makes it just look and feel a little bit different. And because of the name of this one, Pennies from Heaven, it just kind of screams more like angel-like. In fact, maybe that's the fragrance, something to do with like angel's wings. There's some fragrances like that. Very light and floral and pleasant. So this one, this has got to be a different wax. It feels different. It's slightly different color. It's got different jar adhesion to it. It just has a totally different look to it. And it's also got a wooden wick in it, which is our first wooden wick, which this might be an incorrect assumption, but that is usually a clue to me. When I see that someone is using wood wicks, sometimes they also get their waxes as well from the same company. So I'm going to assume the wood wick is from Makesy or Wooden Wick, and then the wax, I was going to say like our Coco apricot cream, but I don't think that is it. It's a slightly different feel and look. It's not their deluxe satin soy. Oh, it feels like that, just the wrong color. Virgin coconut soy would be my only guess this could be, if it's from Makesy or Wooden Wick. If it's not, then I don't know. I don't know. This has a little bit of a yellowish hue to it. So that's just a guess. It's probably not a great one. I'm about 30% confident in virgin coconut soy. It could be, I think it's something similar to that though. I do think it's something similar to that. And the wooden wick is not a booster wick. It looks like a 0.04 half inch would be my guess, crackling wick. It could be 0.03, but I think it's 0.04. Fragrances, it's either this one or the winter one that is my favorite fragrance. I like that we've got a few different wicks going on here because we get to test a few different types of candles and see how they burn. And I will definitely give you any feedback I can. If it's something I'm not super familiar with, I can let you know what I'm seeing and what I'm thinking about it, what I would try. But I don't necessarily will always have great recommendations if it's not a product I use, but I will definitely do my best of where I would go. Like if it was me in your shoes, what I would be thinking about. We got a lot of products here. I'm gonna focus on these candles though for the second part of this video, which is getting ready to start right now. So thank you all for sticking around so far. Let's go ahead and get to testing. All right, everyone, I'm done testing these candles from Velad Moss, and I gotta say, they were really, really good overall. Now, the two jelly jars definitely had the lower scent throw out of the others, and we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute, but they are smaller candles in general, so that makes sense. And in particular, we'll start with the Calmate. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it is the one that says calm yourself. Pretty good. It wasn't my favorite. We'll talk about my favorite here in a few minutes, but overall, it did burn okay. This was the one though, and you'll see here in the footage, where the wick just kept wanting to lean to one side. And unless you constantly recentered it, it was wanting to just kind of burn really well on one side of the candle and leave some hang up on the other. That's very normal. Very normal with certain wigs and waxes that get quite soft. You'll see a lot of other candle companies even say to customers, make sure you recenter the wick before relighting. So you could sell this with no problem. My concern though is when the wick starts doing this and it doesn't get corrected, it makes one side of the jar very, very hot. And then you could have some safety issues, but it also just doesn't completely burn up and use up the candle like it should. It was doing a decent job of catching up about halfway down through the jar anyways, but this one, that was really the only complaint, was just that the wick kept wanting to lean and move and fall to one side, and that made an uneven burn. The only thing you can really do about that is try wicking down a little bit so that the wick doesn't get so heavy. You can also pick a wick that doesn't curl quite as much, or one that's even a cord wick. And so I'll let you experiment with some different type of wicks. I don't know exactly what wax we're dealing with yet, so it's hard to give a suggestion, but that's something you could try, or just know that this is something that happens with this particular candle because your other one that's very similar to it didn't have the issue. That wick stayed centered the whole time. So maybe it's just this one that was a little off center when it was placed in the jar and it's just leaning a little bit on you. Speaking of which, let's move to the next candle, which was the Winter Sleigh Ride. I like this fragrance better than the last one, although it still wasn't super potent. Now, I expected this one to be a little stronger because the cold throw was quite strong, but it was just average, I would say, for a jar this size. However, this one burned great from start to finish, and you'll see that in the footage here. We had a good flame profile, a nice even burn. It stayed centered. It never got super hot, and we were getting a good melt pool within a couple hours. For this size jar, that's appropriate. So great job on that candle. No suggestions on that one. Let's move on to Three Wise Men. Now, this was the one that was the big, fancy, really nice looking candle. And I should say, by the way, in this footage, you're only seeing the parts of the burn, the testing that I'm talking about here. If you don't see other testing like further down in the jar, it's because nothing really changed as I burned it down. And honestly, this would be a very long video if I didn't edit all of that out. So I'm just gonna show you snippets of relevant video information. So the Three Wise Men, this one at first was struggling to get a good melt pool. Now it is a little bit wider of a jar, but it was taking a good 4 to 5 hours easy just to start getting a good melt pool. And then it really took several burns before it really started to catch up. So you could consider wicking up one size. The problem with that though, is this wick was already trying to get really tall flames that were kind of wafting in the air a little bit, kicking some smoke around. Pretty tall flame. I don't know what wick we're using here. We'll know in a second once I get to that letter. So you could try a different size, or again, a different wick type, and that might solve your problem. But I want to talk about the scent throw on this one and the scent itself. This one smells like a frankincense kind of candle, that kind of those kind of notes. Now, personally, it's not one of my favorite scents in general, and I've used a few others that I like a little bit better than this one. But I will say, I wasn't crazy about this one, the cold throw, but as it was burning, it was growing on me. I actually enjoyed it. I had someone over and they noticed it as well, and they enjoyed the fragrance, and it had really, really good hot throw. Even with the less than full melt pool for a while, it had great hot throw. And then the last one is the Pennies from Heaven. This was the white candle, and it was the one with the wood wick. This one was darn near perfect. I love the look of the candle. The fragrance was awesome. Again, this one was okay for me, the cold throw, when I first tested it, but when this one burned, it was by far my favorite. The way the notes come together in the air as it's burning, top notch. Love this one. Great candle. Your best one by far. If you run any ads or promote your products in any kind of way, I would use that one to promote the most. It's a great candle, and it burned fantastic as well. So the wood wick always was consistent. You were getting a good burn across the top, and you were getting a good depth on it as well. The fragrance throw was incredible on it. It didn't get wild or crazy. It wasn't kicking smoke around. I think it was sized appropriately. The only thing I could suggest if I had to pick something was you could try wicking down one size and see if that still gives you good results. Because if I had to say anything, you could probably get away with one size smaller, but I don't even know that I would really worry about it because this one burned great. But if you wanted to give it a shot, you know, I'm always looking for ways to improve. And so if you want to give it a shot and go down one size, go for it. Great job top to bottom on that one. And actually great job all around on all your products. I like the variety. I like the fragrances you chose. Yeah, just overall, great work. Great work. Let's get to that final letter and see what we're working with. All right, we got our fact-checking letter here. And something else. All right, fact-checking. Pennies from Heaven. That was the white candle, the one that I liked the most. My favorite by far was their special edition candle. The wax is virgin coconut wax from Wood & Wick Company, or they're now called Makesy. I think I said that. There was a few that it could have been. Actually, there were several it could have been. And the only reason I went with that is because the Wood & Wick itself made me think that maybe they got the wax from there as well. So yeah, bonus points for me on that one. That was kind of a shot in the dark. Virgin coconut wax. The wick was Crackling Wick 0.03, and it's a 1/2 inch wide. I don't know that I would change that. If you were going to, maybe a 0.03, and then instead of a 1/2 inch, you did 3/8. That's the only thing I would try. Otherwise, I wouldn't mess with it. And the fragrance used in that one was Dewy Rose from Brambleberry. Love it. Three Wise Men, the ceramic jar. The wax was 6006. So yes, that's right. I do remember commenting that the Pennies from Heaven, the white one, was a different wax than the others. So the other one was 6006, which explains why I had some good hot throw. Wick was an Eco 12. All right, so now that we know that, I'm gonna give you a little bit of advice on that candle. 6006 is a great wax with great hot throw, but in certain size jars, it's a pain in the butt to use, particularly jars this size. Any diameter that's around a 3.5 to 4 inch range is super tough with that wax because it's too big for like a single wick to burn great, but it's too small generally, or most of the time anyways, to use 2 wicks. So it's kind of that no man's land, and it's tough. I'm not a big fan of Eco Wicks in 6006 for the exact same reason that I mentioned when talking about this candle. Tall, large flames, they kind of waft around, can flap a little smoke around. It's just a nature of using that wick with this wax. I don't mind Eco Wicks, I just don't love them with 6006. So my suggestion would be to try an HTP wick. I don't know if you'll get any better results. You could try a cord wick, like a zinc, although for this size, you're gonna need a pretty large one. That worries me a little bit as well. You could try double wicking these with like very small wicks. or you could try the Premier 700 series. Honestly, this is just a tough battle with that combination of materials. But take some of that advice to heart and see if any of that kind of points you in the right direction. I'd like to give you a straight answer there, but it's a tough one. It's not an easy one to solve. The other two, the jelly jars, it looks like they are also 6006 wax, which I think we knew or mentioned, and then they are using HTP 83 wicks. Now, HTP wicks do have a tendency to lean a little bit, and that would be the explanation on that one candle. But again, it doesn't happen all the time. I would try Premier 700 wicks or zinc wicks in those jars. That size diameter jar will definitely work with both of those wick types, and they stay centered a little bit better than others. So on that one, you would use a Premier 740 up to 760 maybe, somewhere in that range, and then adjust as needed. And then a zinc, you could probably do a 44 24 18 up to a 44 32 18, somewhere in there. That's like 3 or 4 sizes mixed in there. And yeah, hopefully that helps you out with those candles if you want to change them. You don't have to. Well, I appreciate you sending these candles in. I appreciate the effort and the backstory that you shared with us, and hopefully some of this insight helps you out a little bit. Thank you all for supporting another candle maker in the community. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Let the maker know what you thought and give him some love in the comments as well. And appreciate you guys all for being here and for watching. And do me a solid, if you guys enjoy these videos and enjoy this channel in general, do me a favor and give me a thumbs up by hitting the like button below. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and I will see you all next time. Thanks.